Do you ever see a magic card and think, boy, wizards really did not understand how their own combat system worked? Fist of the Demigod is a 2-mana Rakdos Aura enchantment, which gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 and first strike if it's red, and +1/+1 and wither if it is black. Wither, for those who don't know, means that damage is dealt in the form of -1/-1 counters. And let me just tell you, folks, that this thing is absolutely cracked in half when you give it to something that's at the very least red and black. And hey, guess what format you're playing? That's right, the one where to play this card you'll have a creature that's red and black available to you at all times. I'm aware there's exceptions. Shush. So, just because of your commander, which will generally be able to make use of both of this thing's modes combined, you can make full use of this card at nigh on really any time. And I just said that that's busted. But why? How's it busted? What's the reason for plating up your big angry Rakdos dude with a thing that makes it bigger and angrier, and that makes it insane? Simple answer. Maths. The combat calculations you make when this thing is involved are so lopsided in its controller's favour that it's bordering on farce. To give you an example of this, let's enchant it onto a Footlight Fiend, a bog-standard 1/1 which is both red and black. So, in order to overcome this basic 1/1 equipped with Fist of the Demigod, what power and toughness do you think that you'll need? Well, first things first, the Fiend gets +2/+2 from being both red and black, so the opponent's creature needs to at least be a 3/3. Then it needs to overcome its first keyword hurdle in First Strike, which requires the opponent's creature to at least have an extra toughness to be able to survive until the main combat and then take down the Fiend. So now we're looking at a 3/4. Then we add the Wither, and this is where stuff gets silly. See, if your 3/4 hits the Fiend with the fists, it will survive. However, because the First Strike Wither combo puts -1/-1 counters equal to damage dealt onto the opposing creature during the First Strike phase, the 3/4 in our example, its power and toughness will both be reduced by 3 before even touching the actual main combat step, meaning that the trusty 3/4 will become an 0/1 and do bugger all. No. When all is taken into account, what you need to beat a single Footlight Fiend with Fist of the Demigod is a 6/4 at minimum. It requires a full Craw Worm in order to send the Fiend packing, and then the Worm will still be left as a 3/1 afterwards due to the -1/-1 counters. Madness. And that's just when enchanting basically a vanilla 1/1. Yeah. In order to be even adequately close to catching these hands on any other creature, what you actually need to have is a creature with power and toughness that at least matches this equation. Yes, an equation. A power of twice opponent's base toughness +4, and a toughness of opponent's base power +3. Or at least, some first strikers of your own to somewhat balance the playing field. And it's at this point that most players' brains will switch off and decide to swing their big dingus at somebody else or throw any old weenie under the bus. The fists just kind of melt the combat step and frankly some players' brains at the same time, and it's wonderful. But if that was too much maths for you, which fair enough, let me put it into practical terms. My favourite place for playing this card is in Thantis the Warweaver, where Thantis herself is a glorious target for equipping with the fists. Just at her base 5/5, equipping her with the fists means that an opponent would need a 14/8 to get rid of her successfully. And let me tell you, this makes her an absolute nightmare on both the attacks and blocks that she is forcing. First off, on the blocking side, an opponent attacking into you with Thantis on field was already a risky move. But now, when juiced up by the fists, that opponent may well be throwing their guys into a spider-shaped industrial wood chipper between the Vigilance, Reach, extra +1/+1 counters, and now buff, Wither, and First Strike. And then you look at Thantis on the offense as well, as she does have to attack. And you honestly get a similar story there. One of the spider's big issues has always been being forced into attacking big, vigilant, or summoning sick threats, which can 1v1 her and win. But add the fists to the story, and 1v1ing Thantis becomes nigh impossible, and so she can basically attack with impunity as well. Like, these two pair so well together that the fists even get her to that golden 7 power threshold for commanders to 3-shot with commander damage for that extra spice. I know she gets there easily herself, but shh. But before I go off on too much on, not today's card, how about trying the fists with, say, OG Zergo? A demigod buffed Zergo requires a creature to have at least 10 toughness to survive his wrath, and the Wither clears up a big issue of his in indestructible creatures. Actually, no. This card just criminally underrated in pretty much every Rakdos Plus deck where you want to be attacking or dealing combat damage. You know, your Kefkas, your Cruel Claws, your Caesars. It just makes the combat math such a nightmare and so unfavourable that blocking even your combat-centric commander doesn't feel like an actual viable option. And well, if they do decide to throw half their board in front to try and stop you, enjoy your game of whack-a-mole. This thing is an absolute house in so many decks, and yet it sees so little play. Truly, a travesty. It is a wonderful pain in the neck, and one that should definitely see far more play than it does now. So go on. Pick up those fists and start going to town. You will not regret it.